What up, my people? Welcome to the League Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Youman. And on this episode, we're really going to flip the script because I have no idea about the game that the athlete that I have joining me today. But hopefully, Mr. Rob O'Gara, professional hockey player, can teach me a little bit about what he does. And at the very least, I'll become a hockey expert. Rob, man, what's going on?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you coming on. You tested me a little bit to let me know if I need to carry on with these podcasts or I need to shut it down. Being that you're a hockey player, a sport that I've never really been around, been to a couple games here and there, but as far as really diving into the sport and learning about the sport, man, I have no idea about what goes on. So again, like I said, maybe you can shed some light on the game, the sport, and what you do as far as being a defenseman. And help me out a little bit, and maybe I'll watch a little bit more on TV and partake in hockey festivities a little bit often.
Hey, it's all about growing the game. Anything I can do, that's what I'm here for.
For sure, man. For sure, I appreciate it, man. Just send me the bill in the mail if I need to pay you for teaching me a little something or not. But man, you from I see you from Long Island. Well, born on Long Island, right?
Yep.
So did you grew up there, or did you move away, or did you stay on the island for some time?
So I grew up through I was 16 years old when I left Long Island. Actually, so kind of a bit of a strange story in that it's not as common with other sports. So I got through my junior year of high school on Long Island, Smithtown, and got to a point where at that time, if you wanted to keep playing hockey, you kind of had to leave. They call it your midget year. So your U16, after U16, the hockey on Long Island kind of drops off. The next level is you're not getting the exposure to college coaches that you would elsewhere. So kind of got to a point where I had to make a decision, and thankfully, a prep school in the Boston area, Milton Academy, kind of had reached out the year before, and we were feeling it out a little bit. And my mom didn't want to give me up a year early. But then we got to this after my junior year, and it really was like either I was going to play what they call juniors on Long Island, and like I said, just not the exposure if I wanted to keep playing. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, I love this. I want to continue doing it. And thankfully the prep school kind of fell into place. I repeated my junior year, and that's when I left Long Island. So when I was like 16, 17 years old, kind of got to a crossroads. But yeah, basically grew up on Long Island and almost finished high school there.
Gotcha, man. I guess I should have wore De La Soul t-shirt. I'm repping a Tribe Called Quest today. De La Soul being from Long Island, but we have that in common. I played for the Ducks for 1 year in 2011, so I'm familiar with Long Island and stuff like that. Yeah. So I've been in your neck of the woods a time or two throughout my baseball career. But you talked about having to leave home if you want to pursue hockey beyond high school per se, or to even push yourself to see if you had the skill set or what it would take to play beyond high school, to play beyond college. But how did you get started, man, with hockey? Because, and I'm from the South, so it's a little bit different. You're from the Northeast, so that sport is there. How did you get started with playing hockey?
Sure. I got to say, I've been to a lot of Ducks games. So I got to give you props there.
Cool.
So growing up, when I was, so I guess going further back in the 1980s, so from 1980 to 1983, the New York Islanders were a relatively new franchise. and they were founded in 72. 80 to 83, they won 4 Stanley Cups in a row. And my grandfather on my dad's side was a security guard at their home rink. And he fell in love with the game and kind of passed that on to my dad. And my dad, he never played. He played football through high school, kind of flirted with D2 in college. And that was really his sports experience. And but he fell in love with hockey sort of later in life. And then I came around and I kind of took that right from him. I grew up an Islander fan, which I got to tell you was not easy. They were not very good. But the love for the game came real naturally. And as much as I think my dad, I never played football growing up. I was always baseball, hockey. And hockey I fell in love with it early, and I got to attribute that to my dad, because even though he didn't play, he loved the Islanders, and he was playing men's league. He hadn't touched a stick his whole life, and he kind of picked it up real late, but he loved it, and that's kind of where I got it from, and took it from there.
Gotcha, man. Shout out to Pops and Grandpops for really, letting the game come down through them into you, and you taking it even further than what your dad did, playing, rec league or whatever, men's league, and really making something out of it. So, the grind of hockey, I know it's not easy. It's a lot of training that may be involved. And you said earlier that you had to take your game over to Boston, to this academy in Boston, if you wanted an opportunity to do some big things in the sport. So talk about leaving home. Mom's a little reserved about you leaving home at 16 or 17 years old. But Mom, I really love this game. I want to see where it can take me. Here I am going to Boston. New York and Boston, whatever sport you think about, they're always clashing. So you're in a new area, young man at an academy, having to get to know some new teammates, new coaches and stuff like that. Speak about that experience.
Sure. So I'll push it back a little bit. The summer after my junior year on Long Island, I was sort of locked in. Senior year, going to graduate with my buddies back home, try the junior hockey, see where it took me, whatever. And it got to like late July when I finally kind of pulled the trigger on applying to Milton. And the month of August, it was like, apply, you're in, here's 2 summer books, you're moving away from home. Like, it was crazy. And that might even soften the blow for my mom a little bit, because of how quick everything happened. Yeah. But I think she, it was 1 year early from when I would have or should have been going to college. So I think she, it definitely wasn't easy on her. And I say that it wasn't really easy for me either, but I was up there. I was a boarder, so I was in Goodwin House, 40 other guys. Kind of honestly, there were some homesick moments, and I think anyone would have that.
I'm sure.
But having that, you're in there, and all these guys are kind of going through the same thing, and then you got the hockey team aside. Just kind of being lucky to have friends right away. And so that I really enjoyed my time there off the ice. I was very lucky to kind of meet some friends for life. And then on the ice, it was crazy how quickly things happened or things changed. Long Island, I had never seen a college scout, nothing. It was nuts looking back. And so you play, kind of how it works is you play a U18 team in the fall. So instead of playing a fall sport, you play this kind of club team outside of school, and you play from September to around November, and they kind of cram a whole season in so that your team can make nationals, which is later on in the year. But it's mostly for more exposure before the prep school season starts in November. And the first, we had a tournament, a preseason tournament, and then our first game. And one of the coaches came down the bench and tapped me on the shoulder, pointed to a guy in the stands and said, "That's the Dallas Stars scout." And I said, like, either you're messing with me, or, you know, we're kind of skipping a step here because I'd like to go to college. Where are those guys at? I'd like to talk to them. But it was, I mean, just that. I remember, you know, leaving that game, and my dad did not miss many games when I was at Milton. He'd make the 4-hour drive. We played Wednesdays and Saturdays, and he'd leave work early on Wednesdays to get up there. Like, that's how crazy he is. But I remember calling him and being like, well, like I played well, and this guy was there. You know, I can't even wrap my head around it. Like that, honestly, that was the first, like, and I'm sure people had been watching, but I was probably oblivious to it. But that was like the first time where I was like, wow, or I was told, hey, this guy's here to watch you. Yeah. It's like, it was just mind blowing how quickly everything kind of happened from there. And we had a really good prep school team that year. We ended up winning the New England championship, and I had committed to Yale in December. So I just, like, from August to December, my whole life had changed. And then in June, right after that, I got drafted. The hockey draft works a lot different than most of the other sports. I'm not 100% sure how baseball works, but I know, like, basketball, football, you kind of declare, and then that's kind of it. But I was, the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup. I was in Boston. I got drafted by Boston. Like, it was just insane. It's crazy to even, like, say, like, whenever I think about it, it's crazy, but indeed. It was just, how quickly everything happened, and kind of just getting in the right place, getting seen by the right people, and playing well. It just, everything kind of fell into place. It was, yeah, I know now that my mom doesn't regret sending me up there. So
your story
definitely made it worth it.
Your story is similar to mine in a sense. When you talk about, you know, you played, you love the sport. I love baseball. You said you played baseball too, but let's just compare hockey and baseball, the two sports that we played at the professional level. I love the game. Didn't know a whole lot. I played it. I had fun with it. I was pretty good at it, but like you said, when your coach tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Hey, that's the Dallas Stars scout." Okay, like, oh, is he here to watch me, or what's going on? You know what I mean? But you finally got that exposure, and had coaches. Not saying your coaches on Long Island paid attention to detail, but a lot of stuff. I'm guessing at the academy, at the prep school, was specialized in helping you as a particular athlete, your position. Learn it, get better at it, and learn and get to know the little nuances of whatever it is that you're doing. So until you started getting that exposure, you was just like a deer in headlights when it came to how the whole process of college worked and professional thing worked too. I was the same way in baseball until I started to get that exposure playing against some tougher competition. The scouts were there to see them. I happened to do well. Guess what? Now they're here to see me. Yep. So with that being said, man, you talked about how things had happened real fast. Mom was probably like, okay, this was a good move.
It's all right.
I'm glad I allowed my son, my baby boy, to take his talents to another city 4 hours away from the house, and it's all starting to pay off. But you get drafted by Boston, 2011. I'm on Long Island at that time. I'm playing with the Ducks in 2011. Oh, yeah. And then you said you committed to Yale, man. I want you to talk about the draft first. And then when you committed to Yale, did you commit for the grades or did you commit for the hockey?
Okay, so I'll tell you. So the draft, so leading up, again, a little different than, actually similar to, I would say, the other major sports.
Yeah, and it's similar to baseball too, to where you're exposed to the amateur draft out of high school. You can decide to sign or go to college.
Yes,
it's the same situation.
Yeah. And I guess when like an NBA player declares for the draft, he'll get an agent. Yeah. Basically, for hockey players, they're called advisors.
Same
so you sign your okay. Yeah. So same thing. And so I had met my advisor early on in the prep school season. He kind of noticed me during that U18 season, that pre kind of club team. And leading up to the draft, I had all these interviews, and I going to lunch with people, like coming down to Long Island to talk. It was just, everything was surreal.
Superstar, you're superstar already.
It's crazy. I mean, going to like a diner with a Philadelphia Flyers scout. I remember he asked me if I wash my feet in the shower.
What?
Because that's like the kind of thing you hear in like, these silly, like, oh, what's the craziest question that someone asked you? And sure enough, there you go. I don't even remember what I said.
What was the meaning behind that, though? What was the meaning behind him asking that question?
Well, he kind of posed it like, I'm not going to ask you any weird questions like this.
Okay.
And then he said, well, but do you? If that helps you, yes.
Yeah.
But like the whole process around that was interesting, because I was going to be, if I was going to get drafted, I was going to be a later round guy. And I wasn't going to go to the draft. I didn't go to the combine or anything like that. So a lot of it was either, phone calls or people visiting. And my agent kind of going into it said, okay, hey, XYZ, these teams might be interested. These could be the ones. And of course, every time their team would come up, my dad would be on pins and needles, be like standing up. And sure enough, at that point in the draft, so I got drafted at the last pick in the 5th round. And at that point, really, it's just like the ticker at the bottom will show like the next pick, and they're analyzing more like the higher guys, or if they have a video package on a late pick. Sure enough, they went to commercial. The NHL Network was in commercial, and my name scrolled across the bottom next to the Boston Bruins.
No highlights.
No, nothing here. But like we looked at each other, because I hadn't gotten a phone call yet. It must have been good timing. But I looked at my dad. He looked at me. He's like, "Holy crap!"
It's real.
we were in the basement of a house on Long Island, and it was just like it was nuts. It was nuts. And I got called from the GM and the assistant GM, and it was the craziest part of that. Before I go to the college side, a week later, NHL teams have what they call development camps for basically all their prospects that aren't professional yet. And a week later, I was at this camp, and at that time, so I ended up going to 5 of these because I had another year of high school and then 4 years of college. During that week, I turned 18. So I started the week, 17-year-old kid, and there was a 26-year-old guy who was graduating college that was trying to get signed. So I was like, the guy's 9 years older than me. This is a man. I'm a kid. Yeah. And for him that week was, I need to, I want to get a job. I want to play hockey. I got to show them what I got. And I think the GM said I looked like Bambi out there at times. and like deer in the headlights that week. It was tough, but I learned a lot. And I'll tell you a funny story. The first day, you get there the night before, they put you in the hotel. I'm in the hotel with a guy. He went to Boston University. His name was David Warsofsky. He had just got his signing bonus. He just signed. He had a nice Audi. It took me like Chipotle or something. And we were talking a little bit. Yeah. Oh yeah. So get back, get a good night's sleep. Next morning, 5 a.m., the vans pick you up at the hotel. You go to the hospital in Boston, and they just hit you with like everything, physical, blood test, you name it, body fat, the whole thing. And at that time they had their strength guy. His name was John Whitesides, and this guy was like classic, like eat some barbells for breakfast and lift the rest of them for lunch. Yeah. And so and this is like 5:30 in the morning in a hospital. Like there weren't real patients there, but all the doctors are walking around, and it's us, a bunch of hockey players. And he's in one room, and for his station, you go in and he does your body fat. And when you walk in, he yells your last name, yells it. So like I was in like the dental room getting my teeth checked, and I had a friend who was at camp too. And I hear his name, he screams his name, and he's like 23%. And I was just like, oh no, like that's not good. They at that time, they were just like, you have to be under 10. You can't play for the Boston Bruins if you're not under 10%. And since then, they've changed that because it doesn't really, everyone, is healthier at different levels. They've learned more. But anyway, so you do all that, and I'm petrified. I'm walking through there, deer in the headlights. I think that was the best description.
Exactly.
And then you get to the rink and you have the testing. At that time, it was there was a bench press test. You put as much weight as you could, and you had to do between 5 and 10 reps. And I was pushing peanuts. I like bad. I definitely didn't get 10 pull-ups. Pull-ups was the next test.
You were the Kevin Durant. You were the Kevin Durant of the NHL.
I wish. But then they get you outside, and you have to run 300-yard shuttles, 3 of them, and they all got to be under a minute. And they give us all heart rate monitors. And everyone's got the watch on that tells you whatever your heart rate is. And I'm sitting there, and we're doing a stretch, like a static stretch. And my watch starts beeping, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I looked down. My heart rate was like 175. Ooh. And if you go over 175, it starts beeping because it thinks you're going to die. And so everyone's looking around like, "What is that?" And, oh man, I was just so nervous. But every year it got better, and it ended up being like a really good tool to kind of learn what it took to be a pro. And I think that's what they wanted you to get out of it.
Definitely, man. I mean, you think about how you're talking about. You still had another year of high school. Leave the island, go to Boston. You're automatically in an environment where you're going to get looks, whether it's colleges, pro teams, or whatever. You go from that in a year to getting drafted to sharing the ice with professionals, grown men, just being taught little things that you need to do in order to conduct yourself as a professional so that you can stick around the game for a long time. Mm-hmm. That's a lot at 17, 18 years old. That's a whole lot, but success of your prep school team, right, helped you out a lot.
Yeah.
The experience with Boston, with the Bruins, going through the camp, helps you out a lot. Then you step foot at Yale. Like I said, I don't know if you went for the grades or for the hockey. Maybe you can clarify that. But you're climbing that ladder, and you're even skipping a few steps because of the success, not only of you, but of your teams. Mm-hmm. You win a national championship as a freshman at Yale. Yeah. So talk about the experience you had with the Bruins, leading up to you going back to high school for that next year, right? You had another year to finish high school, right?
Yep.
Ended up not signing, but going to Yale and getting some hardware as a freshman.
Yeah. I would say almost my biggest obstacle, and to say that everything really fell into place. I came and it was almost too perfect. When I committed to Yale, I had offers from a few other schools, Princeton, Harvard, and Northeastern. And I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those.
No, I'm going to get a dictionary and an encyclopedia right now so I can finish this interview, man, because all these schools, these schools, I don't know if I can handle it, man.
Don't worry. Well, I had good grades, and that helped get recruited to those places. But when I made that, I mean, it was hard to my parents were very much growing up, hey, listen, get your good grades, and that's really what's going to allow you to open doors. And you know, if you're a good hockey player, and you know, how it works, there were 8 of us in my class, and we had one guy in our class who was one step below whatever a perfect score on his SAT. And then we had guys who, you know, couldn't cross multiply when they got.
Believe me, I know athletes. We got every from one end of the spectrum to the next. We know
exactly. So it was kind of a balancing act, and that's when I first started to really understand. You know, that's, you know, if Yale needed a guy to, you know, obviously to play first and foremost. But if you help their academic index or whatever it is, all better, even better. Yeah. So, I mean, that was huge. And to get those as options was, you know, it was crazy. It was crazy. And it made the decision hard, but it was a great problem to have.
Yeah. But Rob, you know, and I don't mean to cut, but you know, kids don't understand that part of it. Mm-hmm. What you just said is a great point. I don't care what sport you play. That was a great point that you made about making sure you take care of the classroom. And any university that recruits you should recruit you as an athlete, but more so as a student. So you can definitely help, like you said, that academic index, and maybe help with that graduation rate or whatever. But, you know, I just had to throw that out there. Yeah.
Being well-rounded. I mean, that was the message from when I was young, kind of checking all the boxes. It's so important.
Oh yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have kind of put myself in that position where I did. And before I even got to Milton, so between my sophomore and junior year of high school, public school, my mom and I kind of went on a college tour up the Northeast. And this was at a time where, you know, I was good. I was a good player. But I didn't know, you know, where the path was going to lead me, where I was going to play after the next season. So we went, and it was like, you know, we're going to put hockey aside for these couple of weeks where we do this, and kind of see what you like in a school, see what you might want to do. And I'll tell you, my mom had high aspirations for me because we did visit Yale and Harvard and among all. I mean, there's so
no pressure, Rob.
Exactly, yeah. and in hindsight, I tell her, like, there's no way I was getting into any of these schools without hockey. Yeah, I was working hard, I promise, but I don't think I could have done it. But when I went to Yale and we did that tour, I loved it there. And New Haven is it's a unique city in that, like, the campus is so central, and when you're on campus, it's, you know, it has that feel of, like, you know, you got the nice buildings and this and that, whatever. And then, like, right around it, there's so much good food, and like, it's right off of 95. It was so easy for my parents to get over on the ferry. I just loved it. I loved it there.
Yeah.
And even then I was like, you know, this is cool. Like, it was nice to be here. But when they offered, and again, it's to make it still best of both worlds. When they offered me to come in for the 2012 fall, they were the number one team in the country. And so it's like, it's just the best of both worlds. And it's like, and it felt like it was an easier decision than maybe it should have been. Maybe I should have considered the other schools more, but it felt right. I mean, it was so exciting. I felt lucky, and it kind of took some pressure off going into my senior year. And my senior year, when we won my junior year, we had 11 seniors on that team, and we were real good and older. And when I was a senior, there were three of us. And I was the captain. We won 9 games out of like 40. We took our lumps.
Oh yeah.
We took our lumps. And I think that was even more, or just as much so, a learning experience as the year before. Because I had some good teams growing up on Long Island, especially when I was getting older. And we never won anything crazy, but we were always good. We were always winning Long Island, and sometimes we would be able to win New York State. But this was kind of like, okay, I need to be able to handle this, be a leader, kind of help these guys, especially in the place that I was in, kind of knowing where my next step was. And I think that was good for me, as hard as it was.
Yeah.
But then that summer was really important, kind of preparing myself for Yale. And that first year was just, it's crazy. It's another thing. Whenever I talk about it, it's just like, it seems unbelievable. We had a really good team. We had 6 seniors, and 4 juniors. And those 10 guys really drove the boat. Our goalie was a senior, and he was lights out in all the right times. And we just kind of got these bounces along the way that when we look back, it was like, wow, we had a trip over Thanksgiving. We played Denver and Colorado College, and we won both games in overtime. And we were unranked. Denver was number 2 and Colorado was 15 or 16. And that was like, oh, hey, this team's good. It kind of got some attention. And I had my ups and downs. We had a great coaching staff. Really kind of helped us. There were 3 freshman defensemen that ended up playing full time. So me and 2 of my closest friends now. And we just kind of, we didn't all play off the bat. 2 of us we were kind of solid, and the other guy, Mitch, kind of worked his way in. And so we had a young crew back there, considering we had an older team. And I don't know, everything just kind of fell into place. We beat some teams we probably shouldn't have, and it was just we won the whole thing. It was nuts.
When you have special years like that, and you've been playing for a long time now, you're gonna have those days, those games where it's like, damn, how do we get that done? You got to have a little luck on your side to win a championship.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you're gonna be playing with some of your key players that may be out for injury or what have you, on the road playing against some tough teams, stuff like that. So you got to have a little luck on your side when you put together a year like you said you guys did your freshman year at Yale. Talk about. You said you had an experienced team there. How those guys kind of helped not only you, but the other 3 young guys that were contributing in a major way to the team. How did they help you guys along the way when it comes to adjusting to playing a college game now? Yeah.
I right off the bat, right when we were on campus, and it honestly, when I heard it, it sounded a little cliche. But our captain, like one of the first times we were all together, just kind of said, we're not here to, win an Ivy League. We're not here to win the ECAC conference. We're here to win a national championship. And even though they were so highly ranked when I committed, I wasn't the biggest fan of college hockey. It's just the coverage wasn't ever big in my area. And it just felt like, okay, hey, we should win the Ivy League. We have a good team. I don't know on the national stage what our competition level is going to be like, but hey, it'd be cool if we did. But he kind of made our mindset, and the coaches too, that, we weren't going to be satisfied with just winning X or Y. It was like, we want to win this whole thing. And that was kind of like, whoa, hey, let's go. Let's, all right. And that was our mindset. And obviously we set the bar very high with that freshman year, but it really stayed that way my last 3 years too. Even with lesser success, we were able to make the tournament 2 more times. Just like that right away, they set the tone, and I think that was huge. And as we went along, I think having that mentality, especially for the senior class, those guys were on that team that was ranked number 1. They were on the year before that, there was in games that they shouldn't have lost. And I remember watching both of those games. But they had kind of been through that. And, this is what went wrong. This is what, we needed to change. And they weren't even that close knit of a class, which is kind of crazy in hindsight. But they we had the goalie, our senior goalie, and there was another goalie in that class. When the starter went down, he missed 5 games, like midway through the season. And with college hockey, you play less than 30 games, and every game is huge for your ranking. And it's similar to college football. And if you lose a game, you lose the wrong game or the wrong batch of games. Yeah, that's it. You miss the tournament. They just stepped up, and it was always like, it never wavered. We lost 5 games in a row, like near the tail end of the season. And it was there was never a moment where it was like, forget, like gave it a good run. Like that's that. Yeah. It was just like, all right, next game. And even then we went to the ECAC tournaments. We were in our conference tournament. We won our first 2 rounds, and we were in the final 4 of our league. And it was in Atlantic City at the time. We went to Atlantic City. We lost 5-0 in the semifinal game. And at that time, they had a consolation game. So the next day we had to play again, and we lost 3-0. So, and this is like right before, that was Saturday. We lost 3-0. And then there was one other league that had their championship on a Sunday. So we came home from Atlantic City. We're all in New Haven on Sunday. I was in the library. I had a paper to write, but Notre Dame was playing Michigan, and we needed Notre Dame to beat Michigan, or else we wouldn't have made the tournament.
Wow.
And I couldn't get myself to watch the game. I had my paper up, and I would go to the other tab and see the score every now and then, but I was freaking out. I didn't get anything done, of course. I was just but sure enough, Notre Dame won. We were the 15 seed, and we played we played the number 1 seed in our we went out to where we go, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we played Minnesota, who I mean, they had 16 draft picks on their team. They were loaded, and I mean, it was motivation as it was bulletin board material. No one thought we were gonna beat them.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, and we were tied 2-2, went into overtime, and we scored 8 seconds into overtime to win that game. The next day we played North Dakota, and they had 17 draft picks on this. Like these are loaded teams, like outrageous talent. NHL play, like all around the league now. Like these guys are players, and we beat them 4-1, and it just like. That was nuts. Like that was crazy. Coming home from that, I was like, wow. It felt like, you know what, we did it. Holy crap. Like that's good. And we went to the Frozen Four 2 weeks later, and we ended up playing 3-1 seeds, and North Dakota was the only 2 seed because they kind of seed in all 4 regions, just 1 through 4. We played UMass Lowell. We beat them in overtime. And then we played Quinnipiac, who's in our conference. Hamden, Connecticut, literally 10 minutes from New Haven.
Oh, yeah.
Right down the street. Like we see these guys at bars. We don't like these guys, but we see them a lot. In my 4 years at school, and we played them twice a year, not counting playoffs or whatever. I ended up playing them 13 times, and we only beat them one time in my 4 years.
Wow.
As that game is like another thing where it's like I'm getting chills right now. Just like what? That doesn't make sense.
All about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and we beat them 4-0, and that their team was loaded, and we had guys. Another senior who. This kid was good, and he ended up playing professionally a bit, and I think he still plays overseas. But he was just ice cold, like big chunk of the season. I started off hot, freezing cold. Playoffs came, and he started to turn it on, and he scored a huge goal in that game. We had a junior who ended up getting kicked off the team the next year. He scored the game-winning goal in that game. A freshman scored the other goal. Like it just like
stuff was just coming from everywhere. Y'all couldn't do nothing wrong, no matter who it was. If your opportunity came, you was gonna definitely take advantage of it, be successful. It's crazy, man. But that's what you talk about, dream seasons. You hear about the Cinderella story, Lady Luck, however you want to put it. That just sounds like it being a 15th seed, playing against these top-ranked schools with 16 draft picks, 17 draft picks, whatever. A team we lost to 13 out of 14 times. We beat them when it really counted, which was the championship game. So obviously, you're riding that wave, man, from the time you left the island, Long Island, to now you're on the campus of Yale, winning the national championship. You stayed at 3 more years. Like you said, you guys made the tournament a couple more times. And then you're obviously able to maintain the grades, because if you don't make grades, you can't play. So that was a tough balancing act to keep up with, but you did. And going into that last year, completing your senior season at Yale, did the Bruins have your rights, or did you go back into the draft?
So they keep your rights from there's like a small loophole basically for guys like in my position. If you get drafted, have another year of high school, and then you play your 4 years of college, basically the team keeps your rights for 5 years. Okay. So through that senior year, I was property of the Bruins. In some circumstances, like if Boston was just packed with D-men, it didn't look great for me as a guy who had waited those 5 years, kind of did my, education through those years. I could, at a certain date after that, they lose your rights and you become a free agent. So there was a small decision to make where it was like, do we want to do that? Because I had that option. So it happened fast, and it wasn't the best circumstance because my senior year, we were in the tournament and we lost our first game in overtime to UMass Lowell. And that was the end of my career at Yale. And it was like, it was brutal. But kind of after that, so that was a Friday. We lost on a Friday, and some Bruins staff was there. And after the game, I talked to my parents, and I went and I talked to them, and basically they said they wanted me to be in Providence with their AHL team on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I'm still absorbing this. I
just lost your last game of your senior season. It was like, we don't care about that. We need to hear.
Like, listen, let's go. And it was crazy in hindsight to have to switch gears like that so quick. Because and I'm sure you're the same way. Competitive athletes hate to lose. And especially in that circumstance, it was like, I feel like I could probably just lay in my bed for a week and be upset about this. But
just let me go ahead.
Yeah, I need a minute. But my agent was there, and he was probably the only person who said, "Hey, you know what? Take a day. I'll talk to you tomorrow."
Yeah.
And that was kind of, Boston was incredible to me through those years. They were always, they watched me a lot. They're always in contact with what I need to work on, this or that, whatever. And I fit in. I had a place there. I knew if Providence was a great place, a great development place. And in terms of AHL cities, one of the best. And there was a chance for me to find a spot there. And there was really never too much hesitation. I'm going to sign with the Bruins. They believed in me from the start. They were loyal to me through all this 100%. Let's get this done. And the hardest part, honestly, was when I left. So I left for Providence that Tuesday. And they put me in the Hilton, and then eventually an apartment, team apartment that was right next to the rink. And I still was taking all my classes, and there was a class. It was a seminar, so there were 10 people in the class every Wednesday. And thankfully, the AHL, usually you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, practice the rest of the week, whatever.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to New Haven every Wednesday evening to do this class and then come back. That was the hardest part. I was writing kind of a big paper for that. That's the only thing I really remember working on. But kind of balancing those two was a little tough, because I still felt like I was in over my head a bit being in Providence. But I played 5 games at the end of their season. And they made the playoffs, and I wasn't going to sniff any playoff time. They were in first place. They ended up winning the Eastern Conference. So those last few games, it's the team that we marched out there was very young, because there's a lot of guys like me who had just signed or their seasons ended, whatever. So they kind of had the luxury of putting us in the lineup, getting us a taste, and something I'm very grateful for, because it kind of set the table for the next year with training camp and everything. Kind of as nice as those development camps were, that was really okay, here it is. You're in it now.
Yeah.
But they got swept in the first round of playoffs. And to be honest with you, I've never been happier, because I just wanted to go back to school.
Yeah, get stuff over with.
Yeah. Great experience. It kind of was perfect, to be honest. I got my time. I got to see what it was like. I got to see what playoff hockey was like in person, how these guys were battling. And then I was able to get back, finish my school, kind of do all the fun stuff senior spring. So I was really only gone for 3 weeks, and but it was huge. It was huge for me, and kind of led nicely into my first training camp, and kind of going from there. Got
your feet wet, which is great. And you mentioned AHL. What does the A stand?
American Hockey League.
I got it. I was thinking that, but I couldn't be sure. Just like pronouncing your last name, I wanted to be sure that I was right. So you go back to school and finish up, and then you head to your first training camp. Talk a little bit about the grind of pro ball in comparison to college. Was it a big difference as far as how things are done, or was it an easy transition when it comes to your workouts and just taking care of business now that you're getting paid to play a game?
Yeah, it was, the biggest adjustment was how independent you had to be. There was no, at school, it was, okay, you're at the rink this time. Here's the warm up. Here's your workout. Here's your practice. Make sure your classes don't interfere. You go do your homework. every Tuesday was a kind of a battle practice. Every Wednesday was kind of more of a walkthrough, like let's get some game situations. Thursday, let's get some touches, play Friday, play Saturday, practice Sunday, Monday off, do it again. And right away, my first training camp, training camp is, all right, you're skating now, you're working out now, you got your test. It kind of felt I was able to really, I thrived because it was like, okay, hey, this is, I got to be here now. I got to do my business here and, kind of best foot forward, get ready for tomorrow. My first camp, I did really well. You never root for injuries, but some guys were hurt, and I made Boston out of my first camp, and it was I played my first NHL game in Columbus, their opener for the season, and it was crazy. It's something that
man, you're riding that wave, man. That wave,
right?
You're staying on that thing, man.
Like every eyelash that came out from when I was 14, I want to play in the NHL. And I got the chance, and it was crazy. And I played well. The next night we played in Toronto. 2 nights later, whatever it was, we played in Toronto, and then we were in Winnipeg. And it was just so cool. It was so cool. And I really felt like, hey, there were moments where I felt like I was a little in over my head. And then there were more moments where I said, hey, I can do this. I feel good. So we got back from that road trip, and I got scratched, healthy scratch for a couple of games at home. And then I got sent down. So unfortunately, my parents couldn't come see me when I was away there. So I got scratched for a couple of games, and then I got sent down. And honestly, all that, like the day to day, I couldn't even tell you what it was like because it was such a whirlwind then. Like training camp ended. I remember these games. I don't even remember what happened in between. But then, so I got sent down, and I flew right to Toronto, where their minor league team is. So I was going to play with Providence in Toronto, and the flight was at 4:50 a.m. I flew out, got up there. They drove me right to the rink. I was waiting for them to get there for morning skate, and I was gassed. But then I would have a nap in the afternoon, whatever. I'd get ready, and that was kind of like, this is my team now. These are my guys. I knew I was going to spend most of the year there, and I ended up spending the rest of the year with Providence. And it was weird because it felt like when I was up there, I was kind of, kind of walking on eggshells. Like, I don't want to upset anyone. I want to do my thing. I want to,
typical rookie, typical rookie behavior.
Exactly. And those guys up there, a lot of them, and not so much the AHL, but a lot of those guys up there, they got families. They got, they really know what they're doing. So when they're at the rink, they do their thing. They get their work in, and then they go. And, there were guys, and honestly, 99% of the guys there were, hey, you need something. Hey, when this happens, try this. Or, hey, you did this here, let me help you out. And it was great. And I was there briefly, so I didn't get to really, build relationships with these guys. But then when I got down, it was almost like I was a little behind the curve with those guys. So kind of took a little while to really integrate myself in that team. But once I did, like we had a really good squad down there in Providence, and just kind of learning how, like you get to the rink and it's, you got to be there by 9:00 if practice starts at 10. You got to be there an hour early. What you do then is 100% up to you. You have to know what allows you to be ready to get on the ice and practice hard and get better and show them that you're ready, that you can play. And guys would come in at 9:59 or 8:59,
Yeah.
And they grab the crossword puzzle. They'd sit on the trainer table in the room. They do the crossword. 9:50 rolls around. They go in, put their stuff on, go on the ice, and they're the best guy on the ice. I learned early on that I really needed to prepare myself and prepare my body to perform. And it's crazy now. Like I worked out this morning, and before the group works out, I have like a 20-minute routine that I have to go through to get myself in a place where I know I'm not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I'm 27 years old, and I feel like an old man going into these rooms. And
it's a lot on the ice, man. You're banging your body up on the ice and on the wall, or that, all of that stuff. You're banging yourself up.
Yeah, and I could get there. I could do like a little stretch and ride the bike a little bit and kick the ball around, and I'm ready. Let's go. And that my first year, I kind of, again, ups and downs, kind of learning the ropes, and finally found a partner. His name is Tommy Cross, a veteran, been there for a while, who was just perfect for me. Like, we worked well with each other. He ended up having a career year, and I kind of really established myself, started playing well. And that was good. And it felt good. And I really felt like, okay, guy gets hurt, I'm that guy, I can go.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, I got hurt. It was New Year's Eve in Wilkes-Barre, Connecticut. I got hit from behind, cut my eye, right above my eye, and concussion. I was, the doctor, the trainer told me afterwards, so I don't remember, said she was stitching me up, and I kept asking her, what happened? Do I look tough? And, and what are you doing? And I just kept asking those things over and over again. And I had to kind of a few weeks where, it was headaches, the whole thing, kind of work my way back, get back into shape. And I ended up having a good stretch after that before the end of the season. We made the playoffs, same rink where I got from behind.
Yeah.
It was game 3. We were 1-1 against Wilkes-Barre, the Penguins, and I tore my groin. And that was the end of my playoffs. The team ended up making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But it was tough. And those are kind of the first 2 of what became kind of a string of injuries for me. But that rookie year, like, felt like I kind of learned everything. Like I learned how I needed to take care of myself, how I, the day-to-day grind and how to handle myself off the ice. This is really the first time at school you get meals 3 times a day.
Of course, you're privileged.
Yeah, I got to scramble eggs in the morning. I got to treat myself right. I got to learn how to cook chicken, steak. It's I got a food shop. But even that is just like, I got to figure these things out. And it took a little while. But even the next year I was in, I didn't make the team out of camp, didn't make Boston, but I went back and forth quite a bit. Ended up playing 8 more games for Boston throughout that season. They call them tweeners, and I was the definition of like that guy. I couldn't stick.
In baseball, we call that a 4A guy. Between AAA and the major leagues, he bounces back and forth. We call him a 4A guy. So, some of the same stuff when you're talking hockey and baseball. But you're getting that opportunity. You get that experience. You get that time, if you could say, at the NHL level. And with that being said, you said you had to learn a lot your rookie year. You suffered some injuries. Probably the first time in your career you've had to really sit down for a long stretch or a long period of time. Yeah. And then that from the mental side probably was a little tough on you, but you were able to maintain and stick with it. So let's talk about this, man. You're grinding and you're going through. You're a young man, maybe 22, 23 years old at the time. And you're still playing, as we know. But, going through the minors, getting a taste of the majors, and I'm using baseball terms.
Yeah, hey.
But going through those and everything. What type of did you learn? Is there any difference, like as far as etiquette goes? Because I know, like you said, you were walking on eggshells. You made the squad out of camp. You were walking on eggshells, albeit for 2 games or whatever stretch of time it was. Was there any type of, you walk into a locker room, is there any type of way you should carry yourself, or you expected to do this or expected to do that when you're amongst your teammates?
Yeah. I think as a rookie, it really was like, listen, the way. Yeah. Hey, Tuukka Rask, the goalie, he does this. Do not bother him when he's doing that, or warm-ups on the ice. Hey, these guys are going to stretch here. You don't stretch there. These guys are going to shoot pucks at this time during warm-ups. You do your own thing somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there are moments where you step all over these things and it's like, you stupid, like, what are you doing? and in the moment, and even though like a couple of years later, it's like, I have this warm up and you could probably watch a tape. If I was filmed doing my warm up on the ice, it would probably look exactly the same every time I did it. And, a guy gets in my way or something, I'll shoot him a look. Yeah. But then, you laugh it off 2 seconds later and they don't get in your way anymore. But I think that was the thing. Like when I was, especially in Providence, there were a couple of veteran guys who, they're grumpy or whatever, but they would just get on, like they choose a guy. Yeah. They choose a guy, like, you're my guy today. I'm not going to use your name. I'm going to call you something else all day. I'm going to, shoot pucks at you, at your feet when you're in line and stuff like that. And it's just, you shake it off and you kind of build a thick skin. And honestly, it's all in good. It's good natured stuff. Yeah, it was never like malicious or like, it never felt like, hey, this guy hates me.
You just got to earn your stripes. Being a young guy, you just got to. Exactly. You're just that guy that they're going to pick on. So I definitely get that. The two sports, baseball and hockey, are kind of the same when it comes to certain things and the way you carry yourself. So you're grinding, man. You're getting that experience in Boston. You're in the minor leagues. You're back and forth. You're that tweener guy, and then you get traded. Man. How far along in your career was that? Was it within the first 2 years or a little bit later than that you get traded?
Yeah, it was during that second year. So I was kind of bouncing back and forth, Boston, Providence quite a bit. And the trade deadline was coming around. It was like mid-February. And I remember I talked to my agent and he said, Boston's looking to kind of give you an opportunity somewhere where you can play. And honestly, it was more like, I guess you could say that we were requesting a trade because I did feel like I could stick somewhere that, Boston is very good and they have been good since I got drafted. Yeah. And so that by virtue of that, they're packed. They got guys. So they were kind of doing us a favor when we said, hey, like, we'd like to find a place where I could play. And my agent said it could be New York Rangers. And sure enough, a couple of days later, it was, hey, I got the call. They kept me off the ice for practice. Yeah. And I knew something was going on. And I got the call and they said I was traded to the Rangers. And it was crazy. So that day it was going to be our rookie party. And everyone on the team after practice was driving straight to Foxwoods. And they spend the night, do the casino, make the rookies do some stupid stuff.
You missed that.
I know. And so it was poor timing in that, but that afternoon I got traded, probably like 11, 12 in the morning. As guys were leaving the rink, I was held back from practice. So I stayed in the gym. I did a workout. Everyone came back like, what's going on? That's when I finally got the call. I was saying goodbye to everyone. Went back to my apartment, put as much stuff as I could in the car and I drove my Volkswagen Tiguan to New York City from Providence, like 3-4 hours. And by the time I got there, like I'm like right next to Madison Square Garden, this hotel I'm checking into, and I finally get all my stuff in. I check my phone, and I have all the social media, but I don't post much. And my Twitter is blowing up. And I was like, oh, like, you know, I got traded. They found, you know, maybe I got some followers. But I grew up an Islander fan, huge rivals of the Rangers.
Of course.
And I had a few old tweets chirping the Rangers goalie. Yeah. Yeah. And the Rangers goalie, Henrik Lundqvist, the King, a legend, like Hall of Famer. Like this guy, he's won everything except the Stanley Cup. Yeah. And I had an old tweet like, oh, you know, another softie by the King or something like that. And I was in the car, it blew up. It's probably my most liked. Well, it was until I deleted it so fast. But I'm sitting there in bed like, oh God, I can't wait to meet these guys tomorrow. But I was nervous. I was excited. I practiced the next day. I took a puck off the chin. I was bleeding everywhere. Got on a flight to Montreal, played the Canadiens the next night. And it was from there, 22 games at the end of that season. I played with the Rangers, and I was a full-time guy. They put us in an apartment after a couple of weeks in the hotel, and like right in the heart of Manhattan. Living a life, man. It was crazy. And walking, it was literally half a block from Madison Square Garden, and walking in, and there's just being people everywhere. They recognize you, and it's, who am I? Like, the guy's driving in the Maserati over there. You'd probably try to stop him.
Local kid, pretty much, man. Long Island. Train ride away, maybe an hour, 45 minutes or something like that. You're right there. Yeah. You can take the train right into Madison Square Garden. So basically,
absolutely, that's where they took it. Long Island Railroad. That's all I needed.
Believe me, I took that.
That. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I know how it goes, man. But to have that experience and to be closer to home, family can check you out. Like you said, the last 22 games of the season. You're in the league now, man. You're getting the red carpet treatment wherever you go. Again, like you said, the media. We know the media in New York is crazy. No matter what sport you play, no matter how good you are, the media is always going to be around. So, man, talk about. That adjustment a little bit, and we know you're still playing, you're still grinding out. I think you're playing with the minor league affiliate for the Florida Panthers right now, right? So you're still playing with the hopes of getting some more NHL time moving forward. Being 27, I'm thinking you're still young in the game, so you have time to get more time. I don't know. I'm thinking you are still young in the game, but talk about the grind of your position, being a defenseman and how you have to stay on top of your game in order to allow yourself those opportunities.
Sure. Yeah. So there are 12 forwards, 6 D-men that dress for every game. And just by virtue of that, there's less opportunities. Left shot versus right shot is big. If you can play both sides, that's a huge advantage, or at least makes you more versatile, more, it gives you more marketability. So it's, and this goes back to the D coach that I had in college. He gave us a list of 7 habits of highly effective defensemen, made us all memorize the 7. And I don't even know if I still have them up here, but
it's like the 9 planets, bro. It's like the 9 planets.
Exactly. Right? A little hard. That was easier to remember. But just like having a good stick, always competing, like just those kind of just the things that need to be second nature to kind of excel. And honestly, when I watch film and things don't look right or things didn't feel right, it's because these little things aren't there. And fortunately, they're there more often than not, or else I wouldn't have a job. But
consistent.
yeah, and I while I was in New York, things were kind of strange because they were losing, and when I got there, we actually won about 500 those last 22 games, and kind of I take a little pride in it because we ruined the tank a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was just like, there were some days where I would try to pregame nap and I would just be so nervous and I'd get that anxious feeling in my chest and it'd just be like, oh, like, I don't know, how do I deal with this? And learning the mental side of the game and because the physical side, like I knew I could play with those guys. So it was really like putting myself in the right mindset. And getting out there, maybe throw a hit first shift and it's like, all right, I'm in it now.
Get it out, shake the nerves out.
Yeah, right? That's all. Even like when I used to play baseball, my dad would always yell at me, but I would swing at the first pitch because I would be, I know I shouldn't have 90% of the time, but it's just like, even if I whiff, if I foul it off, whatever, I'm in it now. I always felt like that. And that's kind of how I've always been as an athlete. And it's crazy. Like how, I don't know, like looking back, like I felt like I belonged there. And that was a cool feeling. And things really, in hindsight, like overall, they went well while I was there. And the next year I was with the Rangers. I had a really good training camp, but they signed a couple of guys and I was the odd man out. Ended up with their minor league team in Hartford. And I was the assistant captain. This is my third year pro. I was 24 years old. And it was like, wow, it feels like, a big responsibility. And I was good. And they said this, but I really did feel like I was going to be the next guy. I was the next call up, next opportunity. And I hurt my back and I needed back surgery at the end of that year. Herniated disc, pain down the leg. It was a mess. And kind of rebounded from that and into last year. And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, but it just like I said, really learning how to take care of myself and the work ethic to get back and keep playing because I'm fortunate in that I have an education I could kind of fall back on but when I really sit back, even right now, it's like, what do I want to do most? And it's like, I want to play. I know I have stuff in the tank and, I know I can push for an NHL job as, the odds are not in my favor as much now, but I know I still have it in me and we're going to keep pushing.
Oh, for sure. That's what it's all about, man. If you're an athlete and you have that winning spirit and a competitive spirit more than anything, you're definitely going to keep pushing until they don't give you a uniform anymore or something happen, God forbid, knock on wood, to where you're not able to lace up the skates and hop on the ice. So, man, we got a few more minutes left, Rob, and this has been classic and fun for me because it is a new challenge. Having somebody on that plays a sport that I know nothing about. You've taught me a lot thus far. Everybody's going to want to know about fights, though. So, are you one of those guys that like to get it in on a rink and throw some hands from time to time?
I'll tell you what, if I got to defend a teammate, that's a no-brainer. You get in there and you kind of do what you have to do. And my first year, actually, so those playoff games I talked about before I tore my groin, the first two games of that series, I was kind of getting into it with the captain of the other team. And he jumped me at the end of one of the games, and I wasn't ready for it. I turned around and he had his gloves off and he was throwing, and I just, I'm grabbing whatever I could, and we fall down, whatever. But that next day, that practice, the coach brought me over and he said, hey, so we had a guy, his name was Tyler Randall on our team, and this guy is tough as nails. Like, this guy I've watched just talk to guys and guys will be running around, hitting everything, and he'll grab him, and I don't even know what he says, but quiet as a mouse the rest of the game. Yeah. And he started to teach some of us young guys, we called it his fight club, just teaching us how to fight, how to handle ourselves.
Brad Pitt, huh?
Yeah, exactly. How to protect ourselves out there, and it's like those things, and it's not like squaring up or we box in the gym, and it's just so like you grab a hold with your left arm.
You guys practice.
Oh yeah. He would grab with the left hand, and he would grab you, and he gives you a couple shots with the left hand, and he's like, you got to get your shoulder in, you got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And if we and how he would use his right arm, if he wasn't throwing a punch, he would kind of use it to try to block, what we were throwing. And sure enough, every time he'd say throw a punch, and I throw, and he snap, get out of here. And then if we left ourselves unprotected, he would just smack us in the back of the head, right? Helmet on, he just smack you in the head. I've seen guys just toe to toe throwing them, and I've been in that position one or two times, and it's crazy. And in that moment, I've been hit, and it's when the adrenaline's going, and then you sit there for 5 minutes. So you get hit, you don't even think about it. You're sitting there 3 minutes into your penalty. Hey, my hand hurts. Whoa, what happened here? What's going on? So the adrenaline starts to wear off, and you're like, holy, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. Some guys made a living off of it, and give them a lot of credit. But right now, and how the game is, these guys can play now. They can't afford a guy that plays a minute, goes out there, 2 fights, and that's it. Yeah. These guys can play 10, 15 minutes and beat the heck out of you if they need to. So it's impressive, man. And it's I was never an enforcer. I will hopefully never be an enforcer, but when the time comes, I know I'm ready if I need to.
You'll take care of business if you need to take care of business.
That's all. I gotta protect my boys.
Yeah, you're about your business and want to play the game as much as you can. So ain't no time for nothing unless you really have to take the gloves off and go to work. I get it. But I know everybody that's going to listen in, they going to want to know about the fight. So I have to throw that in there, man. But man, before I let you go, it's always a few questions I like to ask at the end of the podcast. Just shoot me your best answers. I might have a couple bonus ones because this is a little different dynamic for me. But, whenever I'm ready to shoot them out there, tell you, man, it ain't going to be nothing crazy, but just some things that to kind of get to know you and the game of hockey a little bit more before we shut this thing down. But awesome. I'm going to start with this, and I know you warm up a certain way and things of that nature, but do you have any pregame rituals or superstitions?
I can't tell you why I started it, but I've worn my socks inside out since I was a kid.
That's new.
And I couldn't tell you why. It's just something I've always done. And that's the weirdest thing. But the way I get dressed, there's so many pieces of equipment in hockey. Everything's done the same. Right shin pad, left shin pad, sock, tape. The way I tie my skates, everything is the same. Yeah. And honestly, through the warm-up routine too. I gotta do all this stuff before I can do, kick the ball around or before I can get dressed. But the socks are definitely the little quirk in there.
That's different, man. I can dig it, man. That's definitely different inside out, bro. Whatever it takes to get your mind right in it, make sure you're gonna have a good one. Might as well do it. So Second one I got for you, man. What's a hockey player do with his downtime?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, over the summer I like to golf, and I think that's I mean a lot of these hockey guys are pretty good at it. During the season, so I'm married.
We gonna hang on.
We have a dog, little Shih Tzu poodle mix. Her name is Maisie, so she takes up quite a bit of the time. But during the season, I don't mind playing a little video games here and there, but I like to cook. My wife definitely enjoys cooking a lot, but I've actually learned a lot from her, and those years where I was trying to figure things out on my own. I would say those are my favorite things to do outside.
Pretty laid back, right?
Yeah, nothing
you don't get after like some of the guys in the league do, right? So
hey, some guys can do it. I don't know how they can.
For sure, I'm with you, man. To each his own. To each his own.
Whatever works.
I had some track athletes talk about we like to go in the garden. I'm like, the garden? No, that's real. Like, that goes from you ramping it up to 100 miles per hour and then taking it all the way down. So, whatever floats your boat, I'm with it, man. But
that's it.
Tell me this. When you talk about the game of hockey, and you growing up and your grandfather and your pops really kind of introducing the game, your favorite player growing up or even now?
Yeah, growing up, Chris Pronger is the guy's name. He played for the St. Louis Blues. Played in other places, but that's when I was growing up, that's where he was playing. He wore 44, and that's the number I've worn professionally. Nice. I was 4 in college. 4 has been since college. That's been kind of my number, and he could do it all, but this guy was tough as nails. Like big hits. That was when I was growing up. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Like half, kind of 3 boats. Like you either like the saves, you like the goals, or you like the big hits. And the big hits were what got me going. And he was my favorite. And this guy was a beast. And that's kind of who I wanted to model my game after when I got older. And it was kind of crazy how I don't know, I was a normal sized kid, and then I kind of grew to his size. I was like, oh, all right. Hey, maybe this made sense. All right, let's go.
For sure. I mean, we all have 1, 2, or 3, if you can see back there for me. I could probably add a couple more, but that's kind of neat, man. We all, like I said, we all have somebody we may look up to or want to model our game after or to be like. So I got 1 or 2 more for you, man.
Yeah.
A city or arena that you enjoy playing in the most? Yeah.
To be honest, my favorite city that I've played in was Vancouver. And so when I was with the Rangers, we played that game in Montreal. That was my first game with them. Then we flew to Vancouver from there. And we had a rookie party in Vancouver. And I had known these guys for like 3 or 4 days. And I was technically a rookie in the NHL. I hadn't done my NHL rookie party. So we kind of just enjoyed Vancouver. I went out with the team and I really got to get to know guys. But then the next day we had a practice. So we had a day in between before we played. And I walked around that city and it's beautiful. It was really nice, like mountains all around. Like it was beautiful. And then the rink was very cool and playing there. I think it was one of those first experiences playing. Yeah. And so it was still like real, like, whoa, like, my God, this is crazy. Yeah. But that whole experience was very cool. That was a really cool city to play in.
I keep hearing a rookie party. We're not going to get into details. Hopefully you wasn't married at the time of the rookie party, but we're not going to jump into none of that. I'm going to leave that where it's at. We're going to sweep it under the rug.
Survive next time.
Exactly. So I got one more for you, man.
Yep.
What are some goals for the remainder of your career? Some goals of yours for the remainder of your career? I know one obviously is getting back to the NHL, but I'm sure you have a few others.
Yeah. To be honest, I want to keep playing as long as I can. And right now there's a lot of uncertainty when, our next season will start.
Yeah.
And it's already been a long summer of training and preparation. And I've kind of been able to step back and sort of, take account of everything. And I kind of where I've landed is I'd like to stay in hockey after. I'd say in the last few years is really like the first time where I've been able to say, oh, I guess I won't be able to play forever. And that's not an easy thing to realize at any point, but
tell me about
yeah, I know. And I think my goal is, aside from, playing the NHL and kind of putting myself in a position where, I get back into that spot. I want to continue to make connections and be able to, whether it's coaching, scouting, whatever it is, I'd like to continue to be in the game. So kind of put myself in that position.
Gotcha.
Maybe that's not so much a hockey goal specifically playing, but I'd like to stay in it.
It is, though. Yeah. Help the next generation and find the next Rob O'Gara. You never know that coach. Some other coach tap a kid on the shoulder and say, hey, that's Rob O'Gara. He's the scout for whatever team, and that kid will be like you were back in the day. So man, that should be it. That should be what it's all about, right? It comes full circle when you look at it in that sense. But man, Rob, this was definitely classic, man. Definitely interesting. I definitely enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect coming into it, but I see you rocking the mini mullet back there. I see you got a little hair going. I know that's a hocky thing as well. I wish
keep it up there as long as I can.
Yeah, believe me, I can't get mine no more. So I know how that is. But man, I want to shout out John Militello as well for putting us in touch and putting it together. Absolutely. Man, John's a great dude. I appreciate you, John, for doing this and helping us out with getting some different flavor on the League Talk podcast, man. But Rob, man, I just want to say, man, thank you. And, much love, continued success, bro. I hope you get that opportunity to get up in the NHL for a little bit longer and stick and really make a long career out of this, man. And this is the League Talk podcast, man. And we are out of here.